This will be a little video overview of how to draw a sink, load it, and cut it. This machine is leaving in a few days, so I won't cut it on this machine, but there's plenty of other cutting videos that I have. So basically you have a sink and you need to cut this sink. So the easiest way for all these basic shapes is to draw them on this included software. So the software will need to go onto a Windows computer, a laptop or office computer, and this software is very well developed, very stable, works basically amazing. Haven't had any glitches and never had any customers report any issues with the software. And you have to keep an eye on the software to where if you were to lose it, the computer or the license or the hard drive crashes, they usually don't provide you another one. You'll have to buy the software, and it's $500. It's included with the machine purchase, but if something happens to it where I can't provide any new licenses or anything, I don't have any access to the software. I buy it for $500 and then include it with the machine. But it's very high quality software for drawing the sinks and editing them. So here we have a sink. So what we're gonna do is measure it the easiest way. So it's a 14-inch sink this way on the X. So we want some overhang. So this one we'll do 13.5. So we'll do 13.5. On the Y it is 15 3/4. We'll do 15.5 with some overhang. 15.5, and then the radius, there's a radius gauge included. It's just packed up in the machine. But for now, I'll just use a piece of tape. So I got that. The tape, it's probably about a 3.5 diameter circle. So we'll need a radius. That'll be 1 3/4 will be a 3.5 circle. 1 3/4. So we have our basic info. Now we go to and then the computer that you have has to have a mouse. It's almost impossible to use the software with the touchpad. You can, but it'll be very difficult and slow. So what we'll do is we'll click. I have other videos on the channel with how to draw everything, but this is just a quick overview. We'll create a new file. Our sink size in the X is 15.5. And then Y is the height. No, our X is 13. We're doing it lengthwise. Our height is the Y, will be 15.5. Our material thickness is 1 1/4. We'll just leave it there. Material surface is going to be our top, our Z for the bit. Now our starting point is going to be, like always, front and center. So we will need to select the center dot and then the half of the height, which will be 15.5 divided by 2 will be 7 3/4. Right. Yeah, so 7 3/4. So now we have our X, center of the sink is in the middle, and the front 0 is centered. Ignore this red dot. So our 0 0 is here. So when you're putting your X on the material to be cut, just put your X where it's been the last 20 years everybody put them. Then you click OK. Now this is just our job layout size. So now we're going to draw the actual sink with the rectangle tool. Same thing. We're going to make our 0.75. Our radius is going to be external. It's going to be 1.75, 1 3/4. Our width this way is 13.5. Height is 15.5. And click create. So now we have our sink. Corners, all the corners. So that part is done. Now we make the actual tool path. So this is like a 2-part software. That's why it's really amazing. You have the drawing section here, and then you have the machine setup section all in one. So a lot of times it's separate software. You have to move things around. It makes it complicated. This one is quick and easy. So what we'll do, we will select the sink to be cut, and we will do a profile cut. Then we'll select the tool that we're using, which will be sink finger bit. We'll be cutting on the inside. We will start on this corner of the cut. So we'll go down, go around, go down, go around. We'll do that 14 times on this. We can change that up and down based on material hardness, and then we click calculate, and it will say it's going to cut through the material and into your machine table, which we don't have a table, it's just a hole. So we always want it to show this message, because if it doesn't show them this message, that means you're not cutting through the material, and you're going to have a little lip left around that'll be left to clean up later. So that's done, and now the software gives you a preview of what it will do before you put it on the machine. So as we can see, it's going down, down, down in this corner, and it cuts through, and that looks good. So now this can be saved and moved to the machine, and everything gets saved on the USB drive, and all your sinks stay on there for as long. So we will save this, we will call it test. Today is the 30th, so 12:30. We'll save it on desktop. Now we will open our USB drive and put this sink on here. That's on there. Now we pull it out, and now it's ready to go on the machine. Now when the machine is turned on, first time in the day, there's a few little things you need to do, as with any CNC. First, when you turn it on, you have to home the machine, so that's why these are flashing. So once you turn it on, then you double click and the machine will find its home position. That way it knows where it is and where it can go, where it can't go, so it doesn't crash. Once it finishes homing, these stop flashing, and it is ready to load files. Also, as with any machine, like a CNC with the high-speed spindle, you have to run a spindle warm-up program, which is included here. So when you click on it to load it, it loads it, and then you go to your program, and then you just click cycle start, and it will spin the spindle slowly. It'll move around the whole perimeter of the machine, because this machine is automatically oiled, so it'll spread the oil on all the moving bearings, and it'll run through its cycle. It's like a 6-7 minute program, but you have to do it every day that you're going to be using the machine. So if the machine is off all night, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever you need to use it, you would run this program once, and then the rest of the day keep using the machine. But you have to do this program, because if not, it will ruin the bearings in the spindle, because when they're cold and you go up to full speed, 10,000 RPM, the balls will actually slide in the bearing race instead of roll, and as soon as they slide a little bit, they scratch it, and that's the end of it. So you have to run the program. So right now it's spinning at 2,000 RPM. After it gets to that end, it'll go up to like 3,000, then it'll go to this end, 4,000, so until it gets up to about 8 or 10,000 for the last few minutes. So but you only run this program once that day. You don't need to run it before every sink. Just one time to get the oil spread in the bearings in the spindle and on the sliding bearings all the way around the machine. And once the oil levels go down in the tanks in the back of the machine, it'll give you an alarm, and it'll beep, and then on the screen it'll say oil low. So it needs to be refilled. So here I'm just gonna stop it. And then when it finishes the entire cycle, it'll go back to the corner where it started from. So that's what we'll do, just go back to the corner. Okay, once we run the cycle, then we can load our program. So here we go, load file, and here's our test 1230. We click load, and here is our sink. And then there's sizes here, but that doesn't include the diameter of the bit. So whatever the size is plus the diameter of the bit will give you the size of the actual cutout. So now what we'll do is, I'll just put the sink in here so You can see how it travels inside the sink cutout. So this will be our piece of granite, say here. We would clamp it down with a couple of clamps on the corners. So now what we'll do is, since our center is in the center here and centered on this inside lip, the center of the bit will be there. So we will need to manually jog the machine to that point with the keyboard. And then keep jogging it. And then you position the bit about a 16th, 8th, something close as you want to the top of the material. So here we go, that's pretty good. Go this way more. So we are at too far. And you can adjust the speed of how fast it travels. And then up and down. Okay, and if we like our position over our X that we would have here on our countertop material, then over here we would go to the program setup, which is F2. Here we can see our code for making the sink, and then we just click 0, 0, 0, and then you press start. Actually, first you have to press rewind. I always press rewind first before pressing start. And then you press start. So it'll go up, turn on the motor, and your water will start automatically also. I'm gonna turn the motor off so we're not using it. And here we can see what we did, and it's going down inside the sink. I did about and then we can see it's doing your overhang correctly. You can actually, if you're cutting a new sink, you're not sure about it, you can actually do that. Put your sink in first, draw it, put it in, check, make sure it looks correct. And then once you get the hang of the process, then you don't need to do this little check stage. And we're on the inside like we're supposed to be. So it goes around. Our depth right now is -0.1, so a little bit less than an 1/8 of an inch, 0.09. And you can see we are still on the inside of the sink correctly. And if you don't like the overhang right now for whatever reason, you'll need to adjust it in the software here. Redraw it and resave it and put it in the machine. I put it too far forward. Yeah, so that's the process. So now it's gonna make one pass, and then it's gonna go down. In this spot, it will come down another 1/8. So it'll go down 1/8 and then make another round. And it'll keep going 14 times round, or how many ever times set up in the software. And then if you need to check something while it's cutting, you just press the feed hold button here, or there's buttons here. You have your stop, feed hold, run, and then this is park the machine, like get it out of the way. So for instance, if you push that, it just goes up and goes back to its starting point once it finishes cutting, or if you're testing something. So that's basically how the machines run. And then the bits, that's what they look like. They cost 40 to 60 bucks each, and you get about 40 to 60, 80 sinks out of a single bit, depending on the thickness of the material and the hardness. The bits overall usually have pretty good quality. Occasionally you'll get a few bad ones, so if you have one that cuts, and then you pull one out of the box, it just doesn't cut. It's nothing wrong with the machine, it's the actual bits, so you'd have to just get another one. And also some of the super hard materials, like natural quartzites, there are some of them that these bits just don't even cut them. They make sparks and fire, and they just chip away. So usually you can cut it on really slow speed, and then here you can, while it's cutting over here, you can adjust the speed of how fast it's cutting. So, but there are some materials that the bits will just not cut. Just like bridge saws have a hard time cutting some materials with their blades. Similar process. So this is the overview.